Hello, everyone. So my name is Laura Ripoll Gonzalez, and I'm an assistant professor in governance at Erasmus University in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. First of all, I'm really sorry. Sorry, I couldn't be here with you today. I would have loved to share some nice conversations and listening to fascinating presentations about our regenerative cities. And I'm very grateful that the organization has allowed me to pre-record my presentation so I can share with you some of my thinking around these issues. I will just kick started. So my research currently focuses on city branding and how it's intertwined with policies in relation to sustainability, particularly, and in inclusive and just sustainability transitions, and especially around the food systems, so procurement, etc., and co-creation in urban governance policies and processes. So what actors participate, how can we ensure that it is an inclusive process and democratically legitimate? And also of late, I've been looking into the cultural value of food, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in the context of farmers markets. I lead a European Union project called Brances, that looks into place branding as a regional development tool in sustainability transitions. And I'll say a couple of things more about that later. So today I have 4 main points to share with you. I would like to share some ideas about how food systems connect to regenerative cities. Also, how food can act as a boundary urban identity asset or element, and how it can be linked with other brands and policies for regenerative cities. And then I'll talk a little bit about this idea of the cultural value of food in the context of farmers markets to give you some ideas of current projects and how we can embed the food system into cultural urban policy. Okay, so first of all, the link between food systems and regenerative cities. A regenerative city promotes restorative relationships between the natural systems the city draws resources upon for its sustenance. So it relates to ideas of circularity, sustainability, and bioregions. Excuse me, it's difficult to hold my cough. Food systems are key in the restoration of this relationship between people and natural systems. But the social and cultural aspects of our relationship with food are also key for rethinking of urban environments. So we want to think beyond this exchange of value or nutritional value, food for personal or planetary well-being, to this cultural value of food to achieve systemic change towards regeneration. So food as a cultural or identity asset and a boundary element for regenerative cities policy. Okay, so this is one of the first kind of cases I want to highlight. So this comes out of this Brances research. We look at the region in Spain. In the left, you can see a map, and in red, the area where we have been looking at is a region characterized by agribusinesses and a lot of a focus on food. So we zoom into this area and touching also upon ideas of regeneration, and we look at how the identity around food is formed. So here I give you a little bit of an example of how different elements in place add to an identity around food that is linked to sustainability and regeneration. There are goods and services, products tangible and intangible. We see here a picture of an olive oil bottle that is produced sustainably, net zero, and also from millenary trees and in a traditional way. We also see here on the left corner a leaflet for an event that puts an endemic fruit that is similar to pear de Perelló into focus, and how the recipes around using this fruit are used in a particular town for a weekend. And it's a way to connect all these traditions and culture around food and sharing. We also see that there is a denomination from UNESCO as Creative Cities of Gastronomy, and Denia, a big city in the area that is more towards the coast, is part of this UNESCO denomination. And similarly, there are denominations of origin for this olive oil I just mentioned around sustainable development. You can see the circular logo here, Olis de Diania, referring to traditional name coming from Roman times. And similarly, we have some people, leaders, celebrities, Evariste Miralles, who is a cook very well known that had worked in star Michelin restaurants and now has opened its own restaurant to really try to showcase the traditional ways of consuming food and inviting not only tourists or high affluent patrons, but also really bringing the locals in and working with local farmers to bring their produce to this restaurant and highlight it. So as you can see, cities can also be branded under this umbrella, and this is the idea that I want to bring forward in the next slides. And how can we do this through a culture around regeneration and regenerative practices for food? Then we move to another area of the world, Australia, where I've also worked in research, doing my doctoral research and beyond. On the right, you have a map of Australia, and at the very bottom, you have the island of Tasmania. The city mentioned there is Hobart, which is the capital city and the administrative kind of center. But then we are going to focus on, if you look at the map on the left, Launceston, which is in the north, so around the area where the kangaroo is, northeast, and is more entrepreneurial and really has a good fabric of people that want to shake things around, change, and work towards sustainability and regeneration. In Australia, there is a tradition of procuring food that is respectful with the nature and our environment, and it draws also from ideas about indigenous food consumption that is not exploitative, but in sync with the needs of the earth and focused on finding this balance between nutrition and ecosystem health. So if we think about how this little town, Launceston, not so little, but this town in Tasmania, secondary town, has worked his culture around food, I'm going to highlight one example of thinking about this cultural value of food through a farmers market that was established in Launceston through an NGO. Here you can see Harvest Launceston, the logo. And you can see a picture as well of the market on the left. And in this particular research, we looked at the cultural value of food in the context of sustainable tourism. And here you have the reference there. So we looked at how this market actually has different kind of values beyond the exchange and the marketplace for exchanging products between producers and consumers. We had surveys done with people that attend the market, but also those who sell their products at the market. And we wanted to measure these instrumental, institutional, but also intrinsic dimensions of this value. So we see that the market is actually changing slowly the local culture around food consumption, and is also fostering a network and a creative hub for innovation. And we will see a little bit more things that have happened since the establishment of the market. But what's important here is that this culture around food consumption and sharing and production is also affecting responsible social consumption behaviors. So the market here acts as a food hub, but also as a one-stop retail shop venue and a social entertainment venue. So it provides an opportunity to have a holistic cultural activity event calendar every Saturday, in this case in Launceston, in an abandoned parking lot. So during the week, there's nothing there other than cars, and it transforms in the weekend, and it puts food at the center, and it brings people as vendors, tourists, locals together to celebrate food and to celebrate sustainable food in particular. So the market offering is topped with regular buskers, which are musicians that come, and also it has kids playing areas, dining areas. It also normally has other events, such the university hosting the official student welcome every year. And it provides this sense of embeddedness and social connection around food that is necessary also to deliver this care for the environment and link to the regeneration of our cities. So moving from this focus on the particular market that I just mentioned, I want to give you a little bit more of insight into what Launceston is doing to embed this local food in the cultural urban policy. It's like a whole food systems ecosystem of culture around food, if you like, and how it becomes slowly institutionalized. So here we see that similar to Denia, the city that I've mentioned before in the project from Spain, Launceston has acquired the UNESCO Creative Cities of Gastronomy Network denomination. So it's heavily working on its identity as a city of gastronomy. So you can see here this year various events that tied into that and highlight food. One of them is the Australian Symposium of Gastronomy that will happen in August, and it rotates in different areas in Australia. Then another one is an organization that has been created, Ferment Tasmania, as a center of excellence for fermentation of different foods. So it has acquired 7.5 million Australian government funding through the Building Better Regions Fund infrastructure to actually activate the region. So the Launceston's approach to fostering the regenerative food system constitutes one of examples of activating the driving forces already occurring, these NGOs, other elements of it, to push the city towards a regenerative trajectory. So it doesn't need the strong intervention of public actors, but it requires some funding from these public actors. So as you can see, the process has been supported by different organizations, but ultimately is based on the city fabric, what people has to offer. We also have this agriculture festival that happens also as a cool season event, which means in the winter, that brings together a celebration of the culture around food in Tasmania. Okay, so moving forward, I want to share some, in this very short and synthetic way, some ideas that we've seen in both cases that I think are important in order to build a culture around food and policy around food to assist the regeneration of our cities. First, it's important to develop a cultural strategy around food and tidy with visits to local heritage and other elements that can be highlighted. Also, to put local produce and cuisine in the spotlight, and then communicate and celebrate this local food tradition. With a twist, you can add some art, other arts and cultural manifestations, and make it even more festive and embed it in a culture of sharing of the whole city. Also, we need to focus, we think, in creating food and gastronomy as embodied experiences for locals, for tourists, and for all. The look, taste, smell, and shared aspects of food add to the urban identity and can add to our regeneration efforts for the city. Then also important to nurture a collaborative culture, to set up the institutional arrangements to do so, so connect food growers with entrepreneurs, with universities, with gastronomers and other educational institutions. And not to forget that residents should be your best food ambassadors. So it's important to co-create all these policies with them and work together to bring food to the spotlight and to talk about regeneration through the food system that belongs to us all and should sustain us all. Because ultimately, food is a language we all understand. So I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to give you a few highlights about my research. If you want to know more about any of our projects, please send me an email or connect, have a look at our website. You also have a QR code here that you can scan, but I'll be really happy to follow up on some of these ideas with you. And I hope you have a wonderful conference in Utrecht, and that you can come up with fantastic collaborations and ideas.